JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. September 12th, 2024. Having some issues again with the audio, so I don't know if this is going to get recorded, but if it does, good. If not, I'll get back on probably before the noon hour. Take a look at the S&P, the SPY, right at that 555 handle I was talking about for the last couple of weeks. Markets a big reversal, right? The biggest reversal since October 2022. S&P was down over 1.5%. And then at 11 o'clock, all of a sudden the buy bots came on, the algorithms came in, and the market just melted to the upside. Uh, Pretty remarkable reversal. So is this the start of a move to new all-time highs? Was this a head fake? We'll find out in the next week or two. We have the Fed meeting next week. This morning we got PPI data and weekly jobless claims. The weekly jobless claims actually ticked up a little bit. So, folks who start the narrative around a possible recession or what have you, maybe this gives them some ammo. And then you take a look at PPI and down on a year-over-year basis, but if you look at the month-over-month basis, it actually increased. So I think some of the reason the market bounced a little bit yesterday was it's almost like it's better if the Fed just kind of keeps they want to have uh, they need to have ammo, right? So if they do a 0.5% rate cut, it's almost like an abrupt uh, cut in the first cut in the rate cycle. Do a quarter cut and go from there. And I think yesterday's data, at first glance, people, some of the folks who thought maybe the Fed should be a little more dovish, that kind of took away the ammo for them that the Fed would do a 0.5% rate cut. And then it came to realization that, okay, this is probably not that bad. It still leaves the Fed in a position to do something drastic if they need to, or have some, be in a position to actually, you know, address concerns if some of the data comes in weaker or worse than expected, so on and so forth. So I think that was some of the move yesterday. I'm not saying it caught me off guard, but I had a lot of some put positions, and I locked most of them in before the big bounce. But on the flip side, probably should have been looking at some calls, but the S&P didn't really cross its 50-day until later in the afternoon, and then right up that 555 handle on the SPY. I think those are both important areas. So today I put it on a watch list. We're at 555 right now on the SPY. 549 is a key area. So if we break under that, I'll look for more hedge puts. And the other kind of somewhat disappointing thing was the small caps, only up nearly 0.3%, despite the market reversal. So want to see those obviously start to outperform. So individual names, and first I'll talk about FAS. So FAS is my kind of my longer term hedge position. So I have the October strikes. FAS went all the way up to near $9 yesterday before reversing with the market. I get some messages, are you going to lock the calls in? Are you going to? I'll just hold those as a hedge unless things get really serious to the upside, because I think it's important to be able to take some of the emotion out of some of these trades, knowing that you have a hedge if markets do tumble. Individual names, so Goldman Spectacular, right after the open tanked all the way, I shouldn't say tanked, moved lower under 460. I got the 470 puts, crazy stuff. It looked like it found support. So I only had a couple of the puts left. I locked those in. I think it was like 1,500, 1,600%. Of course, in hindsight, I mean, if you time it perfectly, add the puts, don't lock any in because that reduces your percentage gain, and then close them all out right at the lows at the open yesterday. But at the same token, I think it's important to be able to, you have to lock some positions in. Otherwise, maybe you don't hold them for the big gain. So sure enough, what does Goldman Spectacular do? Rallies into the green somewhat, well, just up nearly 1%. I put it on a watch list. I'm still looking for these names. I'm not, again, I say not putting my bear suit on, but I think there's opportunities to play some of these financials for at least some more weakness over the coming weeks and months. So don't be surprised if you see me add some more GS puts, whether weekly or into next week for more downside. I think I might trade down to 450 or so. Take a look at Visa. So I got those Visa puts, and if you've heard my narrative and my rants over the last couple months and years, I guess you would say, my thoughts there on Visa. Broke under 280 in the morning, locked most of my puts in for some nice gains. For my puts, all of a sudden they were in the money, and then it reversed course It's up at 284 and change here in the pre-market. Again, similar to Goldman Spectacular. Don't be surprised if I add some inexpensive put hedges to play for downside, maybe down to 275 or so. You take a look. The 200-day moving average on Visas is it's 270. That's that. And then last but not least, with the market tumbling, I wanted to get some more exposure for downside and look for an inexpensive hedge. JP Morgan looked like it was going to break 200 bucks. Added some spec puts. Sure enough, it bounces with the rest of the market at 11 o'clock. Uh, Similar, Goldman Sachs, similar to Visa. I'll continue to look for opportunities to play for that one, for at least some downside, maybe down to 190, 185. That's kind of the thought process there. So now you look on the flip side and some of the names that did well, and take a look at Redfin, up 3 sessions in a row. Considering its big move off the was 650 back in August, the fact that it's kind of held those gains and now it's starting to look like it's maybe it's turned out some of the sellers ready to head to ups. I think 15 bucks plus. And I talk about this backdrop in regards to the lower interest rates, this supply demand dynamic with housing. There's going to be so much. People say housing supply. People are going to start listing their houses, but I think on the flip side, you have people who have been looking to get a house that just it didn't make sense for them to get in at such high rates. As rates start to come down, I think that bodes well. And Redfin is still in the midst of a transition. They're going to be profitable. They have their hands in some of these other businesses that might, I talk about the transaction for housing. It's not an easy transaction, and Redfin has their hands in that. So love Redfin. I think it trades over 15 bucks. I'll wait for 12 bucks or so before I add some strikes. Turn was disappointing yesterday, and I talked about it. Someone posted on FinTwit, I think it's Semido, and I mentioned it yesterday morning, in regards to their IP, their intellectual their patents or the intellectual property in regards to their drug. I guess there's some a spout with or spat, excuse me, with Pfizer. I don't know if what that is. I'll probably I didn't have a chance to look into it yesterday, but I'll probably try to do that in the next coming days. But still, I mean, their offering was well received. $10.49 for $125 million. Here's a company that's under $1 billion market capitalization. I think it trades up near 15, just like Redfin. I probably going to take some time though. It does have a short interest, and then people always talk about the time to market. So it's going to take some time for Redfin to get into phase two. Phase two is 2025, then phase three. Maybe it's 2030, and by that time, who knows what that market looks like in regards to GLP-1. So it opens an opportunity for some of these short names, or at least folks who like the short names, but still like that for 15 bucks plus. And then at some point, yeah, there's going to be M&A. And I've said this probably for many, many months now. At some point, there's going to be a weekend, Sunday evening, there'll be some report that VKTX or Turn or GPCR or Altimmune, one of these names is going to be acquired. Speaking of VKTX, back-to-back upgrades. So yesterday it was JP Morgan. I think it was an $80 price target, which is kind of comical. And then this morning, it's Morgan Stanley just reiterating their overweight rating, $105 price target. If anything, Turns data kind of just shows that VKTX it's best in class. So, and not only that, further along, at least in the other stories, oral GLP-1 still kind of in the same time frame, but I've talked about this before too. I'm just going to hold my September strikes as a kind of like a buyout a proxy, just in case there's some kind of buyout. And then once September 20th comes, I'll probably add some more calls into October, just in case there is some kind of buyout. So that's VKTX. Don't look now, but here comes Roku, and I played that for some nice upside a couple weeks ago. I had some September 75s. I closed most of them in for some nice profits. Roku trade all the way down. I think it was into the low 60s. It bounced again yesterday up near 6%. And then this morning, some upgrades. You have Wolf Research upgrading the stock to outperform from pure perform. Benchmark, which I don't really pay much attention to Benchmark, but they just maintain a buy, $105 price target. So my 75 calls are going to pay, and I'll probably look for some, possibly some strikes to play for moving to 80. So don't be surprised if I add some strikes on Roku. I talked about the trade desk, and TTD kind of, that news weighed into Roku over the last couple of weeks. People concerned that they're coming out with a platform to compete with Roku, but Roku, it's so entrenched. Uh, it's like the consumer will probably, if you trade stocks, the trade desk, but people who are consuming TV content probably don't know much about the trade desk. So to come out with a competing platform, I think it's late in the game, and I think if anything, it just adds credibility to Roku's platform. So that's Roku, and then last but not least, Adobe. And I was looking for some puts into earnings. Another session yesterday, barely traded up 1%, so it's been in a tight range. When the stock trades in tight ranges, it's not good for premiums on options, whether calls or puts. So I'll probably revisit at the open tomorrow. I think that's it, folks. Let's have a great day. I'll be back on audio later, or hopefully this gets recorded. Rock and roll.